Okay. Hi, Berkeley Carroll, class of 2021. I'm Ms. Williams, in case you forgot, because it's been so long since I've seen you in person. But I know we're really excited to bring you the second installation of our essay writing workshop. And today we have as our guest Mattie Ross from Colorado College. She is the Associate Director of Admission there. And prior to being at CC, she worked at Pitzer College, where she's also an alumnus. Yes.
Yes. Oh, yes.
So yesterday you heard a lot about the Common Application essay and how to get started and what its value is in the application process. Today we're going to tackle another kind of essay that you may encounter in your application process, and that's the supplemental essay. You'll find that many schools will ask you additional questions in order to get a sense of who you are and why you may want to be a part of their community. So I'm going to give Mattie full reins of the screen.
Perfect. Well, hi, everybody. For this presentation, we're going to talk about why colleges require those lovely supplemental essays, how to approach specific essay prompts, and then do's and don'ts within those specific categories as well. But let's start off by talking about why colleges use supplemental essays. So from my point of view, the relationship that we're trying to glean here is a 50-50 relationship with the supplemental essays. We've already learned about your story through your personal statement, right? And now we're working with a competitive process where we have numerous apps, right? Colorado College had about over 10,000 applications. So how do we decide from there? And these supplemental essays really help us do that. So not only do we learn more about who you are, but now we're gleaning if you're a fit for us and if we're a fit for you. And it's very dependent on the way that you talk about that. And so here I've indicated that it's a 50-50 relationship for that essay, or at least it should be, where you're talking to us about what you like within the institution, right? So that requires some research there, but also how that connects to your background and the experiences that you've had. So it's important to always have that 50-50 relationship, as opposed to maybe an 80-20 where you're talking 80% of the essay about the institution and telling us about the institution, and then only 20% relating it back to you, right? We want to see that you know about us, and then you can connect to us as well.
Right, because you know where you're located, you know the class sizes, you know even your most famous professors, but you want to know what they really know about the school and how they see themselves in that. That's a pretty useful tip to have.
Yep. And I think what's important to note here is that if you're staying on the surface level, it's pretty hard to make it further in the process. So these essays are quite important, and they demonstrate your interest in our specific colleges, right? That you've actually taken the time to do research, that you've pulled out things that interest you. That can sometimes be a long process, right, of doing research and finding those connections. But they're important ones for us, especially as admissions is very competitive nowadays. So yes, we want to see that research. We want to learn more about you. I've also listed here a few other things that we might glean from those essays. So writing skills is here. Sometimes we have a personal statement that displays writing skills, and then that's different from the writing skills we see in the supplemental essays. So we're looking for consistency there in terms of the skills themselves, like grammar and syntax, but also tone, that those things are working in conjunction with each other. So writing skills are definitely something that we take away. And you'll notice here too, I mentioned soft skills. Soft skills are things that we can always take away from your essays, right? So soft skills include things like your critical thinking skills, or your your critical thinking skills, your writing skills, obviously, your problem solving skills. These are things that you can show, maybe not tell, but show us through the activities you choose to highlight through these supplemental essays. So an example, say you were responding to CC's prompt to create a made-up block class. That is a class that is a prompt that we have at CC for one of our essays. And say you titled the essay "From Jon Snow to Arya Stark." how the Game of Thrones bridged cultural divides. Now, although you're building a class around a TV show, you can also show your propensity for intercultural experiences by having the class travel to the UK to observe the show's impact. We are able to pick up on your creative thinking, right? And that's something that we're definitely looking for in these essays. Perhaps you'll have the class objectively analyze marketing and the inner workings of Hollywood, which would allow us to discover your intellectual curiosity and critical thinking skills. So through supplemental essays, we can pick up on a bunch of things like problem-solving skills, cross-cultural experiences, writing skills, and many more qualities we are looking for in those we admit. So now let's talk about how to get started. There are a lot of great resources online, including the College Essay Guy videos on YouTube, so definitely check those out. But let's talk really briefly about super topics. So super topics are basically prominent activities in your life. So it's definitely important to brainstorm what those activities are, and that this activity will work for multiple essays. That's what makes it a super topic. For example, say you come across an essay asking how you connect with social justice, right? You can talk about maybe a service club that you led, and then another school asks you how you've connected with environmental sustainability initiatives, and say that service club also engaged with sustainability practice. And then you have another essay prompt that asks you to talk about an important extracurricular activity in your life, of which this service club could also be. So this one subject that you've chosen, this service club that you're involved in, maybe you're a leader in it, can also pertain to these other essay prompts. And in that case, it makes writing the essays a lot easier, right? Because you might only have to tweak a few things. So that's the beauty of a super topic.
And so if students are going to, I know you noticed the essay tracker sheet on there. Is that something that you want to talk about, like for students to keep organized?
Yes, so the essay tracker sheet, I think when students are applying to 10 or more colleges, it can be quite overwhelming when you have to write all these supplemental essays. And so the essay tracker sheet could really help you out. What it essentially means is that you're building an Excel document where you designate the columns to certain things, including the colleges themselves, right? So all the colleges that you're going to apply to. Then in the next column, you're going to plot down all of the essay prompts that you need to respond to. From there, you're going to include word limits, and then the last column should be the due dates. And I think seeing them all laid out in front of you will help you really choose what that super topic is going to be, because you can see the connection among the prompts.
And I also think that just for organization's sake, if you are applying to quite a few schools, and we encourage you all to think about 8 to 10 colleges as your max, but for some students, they'll have a few more schools on their list, and it will be really helpful to be able to see it laid out. How many essays do you have to write? When are your due dates? And I think it actually will take off some of that pressure from you. So once students get the full listing of when the deadlines are, what the school's topics are, when the Common App opens up again in August, then you can really start to plot those things out earlier rather than later, so that you feel really prepared come the fall.
Yep. All right, so now let's talk about some common essay prompts that you might come across. Of course, there's the why us essay. So why this college? Or as I like to see it, help us envision you on campus. We've already learned part of your story through the personal statement, right? But now who are you going to be at our specific institutions? For 5 years, I read responses to Pitzer's supplemental essay prompt that states, at Pitzer, 5 core values distinguish our approach to education: social responsibility, intercultural understanding, interdisciplinary learning, student engagement, and environmental sustainability. As agents of change, our students utilize these values to create solutions to our world's challenges. Reflecting on your involvement throughout high school or within the community, how have you engaged with one of Pitzer's core values? And this might not seem like a why us essay, right? But it definitely is, because what we're asking for you to do in that essay prompt is to see if you have a good understanding of at least one of our values, and that you've had deep and meaningful connections to at least one of them, right? So again, it's that do we fit you, do you fit us narrative there. What you don't want to do in responding to the why us essay is talk about generic things like the institution's size, location, weather, or rankings. These are surface level facts about the institution. And also stating that we're a top tier institution might just show that you're sort of rankings obsessed. And we don't learn anything about you, right? So you're unable to really make a connection to a ranking. Instead, you want to dive deeply. Colorado College is known for its one class at a time academic model called the block plan. Admission officers at CC read over 10,000 applications. So you can assume we read thousands of YCC essays that talk about the block plan structure, right? So students will say, I'm really attracted to that one class model and not being distracted by other coursework, which we totally get. We're happy that you're happy about that model too. But because we get so many essays, it's important to try to differentiate and try to sort of make yourself seem unique in this landscape, right? So you should show that you've done your research, right? Talk about specific opportunities, courses, and professors. Go online and write down what excites you. That's pretty easy to do. Give us a clear vision of your future life on campus. Are you the English major who plans to explore every nook in the library and then do it all over again in a semester abroad at University College London? Consider this as a third date essay where you provide specific details you are attracted to. Also, please don't spend the entire essay talking about the institution. We know the institution. What we don't know is how you relate to it, right? So we talked about this in the beginning. You'll want to spend 50% of the essay talking about what interests you in the college, then 50% talking about why in relation to your past activities and your future goals. So that 50% and another 50%, that breakdown there is really important as you approach this essay. So Clea and I are now going to talk a little bit about being creative and sort of doing that with creative essay prompts. So a prompt that you might come across is creating a class, right? An institution might ask you to create an imaginary class. My piece of advice here, and by the way, CC also does this, we ask you to create a block plan class, so a class that's 3.5 weeks long. What you don't want to do is just give us a generic class, right? You don't want to do that. So that would mean that you're talking to us about Psychology 101. And maybe you went to an institution's page and learned more about Psychology 101, and it's very cut and dry. You definitely don't want to do this here. This is all about being yourself, talking about your academic passions, being quirky. You're totally allowed to do this here. And I think what's important to note is that colleges aren't going to follow up with you later on down the line in your college career. So say you chose to talk passionately about environmental science and you have a specific class for that. We're not holding you to that. So it's just important to really think about what you're academically passionate about and have that be displayed in this create a class prompt.
Yeah, the thing I love is that the freedom that some of these essays will allow you to use in writing and showing a little bit more about yourself. So it's not always going to be something like create a class. One of my favorite essay prompts of all time, I think it was Skidmore College, but I can't remember. It was way back in the early aughts. Their essay question was, would you rather be raised by dinosaurs or robots? And a question like that does a lot of things. One, it gives you a chance to maybe show off a little bit of your sense of humor, if that's something you're really good at writing. It also gives them a sense of how you think about things, even silly things. Some schools will ask you, what do you read when you're not reading for school? What newspapers, what publications are you interested in? And these shouldn't feel like gotcha questions, but they're genuinely interested in getting to know how you think and what you're going to be bringing to their classrooms.
Right, totally.
So it's also an opportunity to do more research, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking about, so for the create a class prompt, right, you're going to do more research on that. And what's important here, if you're confronting this create a class prompt, you want to go on the university's website and look up the syllabus and see some of the classes that are offered at that institution, so that you can align your class with some of that terminology there. For CC, at least when we're talking about that block plan essay, Again, we want you to be creative, but I always recommend that students split that up in terms of like our block plan structure. So you can say in week 1, this is what the class is going to do, in week 2, in week 3. And that tells us too that you have a good understanding of what life at CC is going to be like. But again, like Kalia said, there are really great opportunities for you to be creative here. Maybe instead of Psychology 101, you want to write about Harry Potter and you're super passionate about that. So you might title your class, The Commodification of Harry Potter as a Facet of London Tourism. It's catchy. It shows your quirky side. We learn more about you and your passions. And you can always use a colon in the title of these classes as well. So maybe you want to change your title to Humans Under a Spell, The Commodification of Harry Potter as a Facet of London Tourism. Hence, it's fun and academic. You get, again, like Kalia said, show that quirkiness to yourself.
Did somebody actually write that essay?
Maybe, yes. Yeah, yep. Yes. So now let's talk about short answer questions. It's important that you don't give a short answer without substance. For instance, if the college asks you about your favorite food, you don't want to just list spaghetti. This doesn't tell us much about you, and it isn't a creative way for you to use that space. Instead, you should use all your short answer space. A better response to that question would have been, Sunday nights at La Frashetta with my grandfather, or the loaded hot dogs I get after watching soccer games with my little brother. These answers provide context for why that food is meaningful to you. We ultimately learn more about you.
And ultimately, that's what you want the supplemental essays to do, is to provide colleges with information about you that they're not going to find anywhere else in the application.
Right. To wrap up my presentation here, I want to leave you with some overall pieces of advice. Use your authentic voice. We aren't looking for an overly formalized essay. Be you, as the slide says. Although we are looking for fit, there are different interpretations of fit. Next, fill the space. Don't come way under word count. That's important. Additionally, use specific examples and talk about your direct impact, not the group's impact. If you're responding to an extracurricular activity essay prompt, spend most of the space discussing your contributions. It is also recommended that you write about activities that you've been a part of for a long period of time, as opposed to just one-off instances, right? Because those don't really have much of an impact on the reader. You'll also want to use the past, present, future approach. If the college asks you to discuss a major of interest, talk about how you initially became excited by it, some things you're doing with the subject now, and where you hope to go with that major in the future. Again, the college isn't going to hold you to these things, but we like to see how you're planning that out at our specific institutions. Ultimately, though, this is about integrating your story with the college's story. It's a symbiotic relationship in that sense. How can you further the mission of the college, and how can we help you achieve your dreams? Thank you.
Thank you, Mattie. I'm looking forward to having you join us again on Thursday for our panel, where students might have a chance to ask you some more specific questions about the college essay in general, but also maybe talk a little bit more about those supplemental essays, which I think are ultimately the things that trip students up the most, because they're never sure just what the college wants to hear. I think it's important to know that these are not trick questions. These are questions that are asked in earnest. They want to get to know, colleges want to get to know students a little bit better. And this is, for them, the easiest way to do that. Although it may feel like sometimes being tripped up a little bit. But thank you for providing us with some helpful tips on how to approach the college supplemental essays.
You're welcome. I look forward to the panel.
See you soon, Mattie.
See ya.